So welcome everyone to another Rotary Club meeting. Welcome to Edith Banks, who is our guest speaker for today, and Joellen's guest, Trevor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Trev.
Hey, hello.
Oh, that's Trevor?
That's Trevor.
That's
Hello,
the
everybody.
Trevor. Yes.
Yeah, Trevor, I've seen your name everywhere, but I've never met you.
Hi, Trevor.
Hi,
Hi,
thank you.
Alita.
Thank you for having me,
Hi.
and thank you for the invitation, Joellen and Donovan. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Sorry to have interrupted your introduction there, Donovan. Go ahead.
Oh no worries. At this time, Alita will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I will? Okay. All right. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
to the flag
of the United
of the United States of
States of
America,
America. And
to the
To the
republic
public for which it
which
stands,
it stands, one
one
nation,
nation
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all.
Thank you, Alita.
You're welcome.
And now Joellen will lead us on with the four-way test.
except I don't have it with. Somebody else is going to have to take it for me today.
Okay.
Alita, you're good at
I
it.
have it in front of me, so I
Is
can
it the
take
truth?
it.
Start
Thank
with that.
you.
Next.
Go ahead, Donovan. You're on.
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Truth.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it
Build goodwill and better
better
friendships?
friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial
beneficial
to all
to all
concerned?
And one of the reasons why when I was asked to become president, I decided in my mind that we should recite the four-way test at every meeting, is so that we can continue to be reminded of what Rotary is, and you know, and continue to remember what is Rotary. We say service above self a lot of times, but after a while it loses its meaning, because the things we do sometimes clearly do not show that we live a life of service above self. We consider others and their needs, and we help others, and it's not just about helping me. So helping our members to realize our passion, right? To realize our goals. We are all here because we like helping people, and we want to create this environment where we give people access and give our members the ability to help others. We're going to help them to help others. I'm still looking for a permanent home for the Rotary Club. I do realize that our members enjoy meeting in person. And it's important for us to make our members happy, right? That's how. Hi, Allison, welcome. Allison is our newest Rotary member.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Allison. Welcome.
And
Hi. You're good.
So we're looking for a home for our meetings. The meetings will be hybrid, so anyone who cannot physically make it will be able to join our meetings online. So if anybody knows of a location that can, accommodate 20 to 40 people, including meals, even if we have to get the meals catered and delivered to that venue, and it has the setup for a projector system and microphones and speakers and electrical outlets so we can plug in our equipment. I'm also looking to liaise with a Spanish-speaking member of our community so that we can set up a satellite club for the Latinx community. And so any help from the membership in that regard would be greatly appreciated. At this time, we will have words of inspiration by Dr. Wendy Ward.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Wendy.
All right.
Wendy.
For today's words of inspiration, I actually want to share a story that illustrates the power of belief, and it's called The Elephant Rope. A gentleman was walking through an elephant camp, and he spotted that the elephants weren't being kept in cages or held by the use of chains. All that was holding them back from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs. As the man gazed upon the elephants, he was completely confused as to why the elephants didn't just use their strength to break the rope and escape the camp. They could easily have done so, but instead they didn't try at all. Curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked the trainer nearby why the elephants were just standing there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, "When they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them. And at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe that they cannot break away. They believe the rope can hold them, so they never try to break free. The only reason that the elephants weren't breaking free and escaping from the camp was that over time, they adopted the belief that it just wasn't possible." So the moral of the story is, no matter how much the world tries to hold you back, or how much you feel tethered to a less than desirable existence in your current reality, due to the myriad of challenges that may plague you, which plague so many of us today, always continue with belief that what you want to achieve or overcome is possible. For the truth is, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. In either way, you are right. So always dream big, stay optimistic, knowing that everything is possible. All you have to do is just believe.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Wendy. That was perfect. Too often we are shackled by simple things that if we think about it, we can easily overcome. But because we are fixed in a mode and a belief, that belief becomes our reality, but it's really a delusion. And once we get over that delusion, we'll be able to break free and escape from those fears and those shackles and whatever it is that's holding us back. At this time, I would love to introduce our guests, and I will go from left to right on my screen. So Trevor, tell us a little bit about yourself and who invited you today.
Well, Donovan, thank you. I've had the pleasure of meeting you a week or so ago. That was a pleasure. And I've in fact decided I would love to sign up to become a Rotarian in your chapter. That's the terminology, I'm not sure. But
Excellent.
Joellen has become a very dear friend of mine and introduced me to Rotary. I've just returned from South Africa after, having lived in the US for, 28 years or so. I had, let's call it a hiatus in South Africa for 3 years, which is where I'm originally from, and then was stranded there due to COVID. And so I've returned to start all over because my children are here and life is here. And so I've had the great privilege of making new friends in the Englewood community, which includes Joellen and other people that I've met through her. And the welcome has been extraordinary. I'm an educator by trade, educator, coach, worked in leadership in corporate life as well as in the public sector, and done a range of things over a period of 25 years. But what resonates for me is it's the first time that I've been in a Rotary meeting, and I liked your question, Donovan. Is it the truth? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And that resonates for me because it's the way I've tried to live my life as a principal, as a leader of people for all my life, as well as an athlete on the sports field. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to listen in today, and I look forward to the opportunity to be a part of your group going forward. Thank you for the invitation, Joellen.
Thank you. Gloria Shai.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I did not plan on being talking in this meeting. I was here to support Edith, your presenter.
Okay.
I am part of a group with her, Mocha Moms, and she was sharing that she was presenting, and we have some other members who are part of the Rotary Club.
Mocha Moms!
Yes.
Angela, nice to see you.
Yes, Angela. And so I'm here to listen in and support.
Welcome, Gloria. So nice to meet you. And I suppose Joanne and Joanne and Francisca.
Whoop, you got it right.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Francisca. I don't mind. I'm Francisca, and I'm also supporting. I'm here to support Edith. We are in the same doctoral program together, and anything she wants to do, I'm here to support it.
Nice. And Amy, Joanne, and I see Charmaine Rodriques. Hi, Charmaine. Would you like to say something? Anyone, any other guest would like to introduce yourself? Okay, no pressure. So at this time, I will ask if anyone has any announcement. Alita, you are first.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. Okay. Now, I just wanted to mention that the leader, I guess we all know by now, but the leadership meeting was canceled for last night, the district meeting. And it was going to be in Secaucus at the VFW. So we'll hear more. The assistant governor's training was in combination with 7475, one of the other Rotary districts, which consists of Essex County and Hunterdon County. That was combined. I was unable to attend that one, but we didn't have a big turnout from our district, but they did, I'm hearing, from the other district. So I just wanted to make that announcement, Donovan. Thank you.
Thank you, Alita. Any other announcements?
I have one.
Okay.
I wanted to ask if anyone was interested in joining the environmental committee to reach out to me at talia.schulman@gmail.com. I'll put my email in the notes. And I look forward to hearing from you.
And please sign up with Talia. Very, very fun stuff that we will be planning to do this year with the environmental committee. Exciting stuff. Great stuff. So she's going to need a lot of help.
It is. And Donovan, I might add, I was the secretary for 7 years of the Environmental Commission. It is an exciting committee to be on.
You mean for the city?
Yep.
Oh, so we're talking about the one the committee for the club.
Oh, you're talking about the Rotary's environmental. I thought she was on the city's environmental. Sorry.
Yes. And Talia, with that, please introduce our guest.
Okay, our guest speaker today is Edith C. Banks. The topic is the myth of the strong Black woman. Edith C. Banks is a dynamic educator, speaker, and coach. Because she believes in leading by example, her down-to-earth and honest approach helps her connect to audiences of all ages. With 18 years of experience as a student affairs professional, Edith has conducted hundreds of seminars. She has impacted the lives of thousands with her presentations and one-on-one coaching sessions. Edith was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. She graduated from the College of New Rochelle, earning her bachelor's degree in communication arts with a minor in business. In 2007, while working full-time, Edith earned her MPS in humanistic multicultural education from SUNY New Paltz. She is currently in the final stages of completing her doctorate with a specialization in executive leadership from St. John Fisher University. Her dissertation is on the myth of the strong Black woman in academia, balancing family, career, and self. When Edith is not writing, developing content, coaching her clients, leading a training workshop, or delivering a keynote address, she enjoys spending time with her son and watching him play ice hockey. Warm welcome to Edith.
Thank you so very much for having me. It is definitely an honor to be able to share my research with you. And really, this is so much my passion. So being able to share that is always a special moment for me. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my goals for today, and I know I have about 25 to 30 minutes. My goals for today are really to share some of the research that I've conducted, my findings, but also how does this relate to all of us on this Zoom call. And so, as I mentioned, I am a doctoral candidate at St. John Fisher College. I'm actually scheduled to defend my dissertation at the end of this month. So that's really exciting for me. And my study, again, is the myth of the strong Black woman, balancing career, family, and self. Okay, so we could see right here, we have women marching, right, in these two images, one from the 60s and one from probably, I believe this is 2021. And in 1962, Malcolm X stated, "The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman." It saddens me to hear women still say that they feel that these sentiments are still true 60 years later. What are we going to do about that? How do we change that? So I'll ask this question. I love to do things interactively. I've heard many of you actually turn on your microphones and speak, so it doesn't seem like this is a shy group, but you can certainly use the chat as well. If you can tell me, what are some of the characteristics of a strong Black woman? When you think of a strong Black woman, what is it that you think? Feel free to, again, open your microphones or put it in the chat.
She never complains.
Never complains. That's a big one.
Independent.
Independent.
Resiliency.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
Oh, Wendy, I took it? Okay, resiliency.
You just got in there before me. Confident.
Confident.
Shoulders a lot of responsibility. Yes.
Takes care of everyone. She has a lot of responsibility. So I'm going to actually just, as we go through some of these things, the participants in my study had such prominent statements that I thought it was important to actually quote right back to you and share their sentiments. So one of my participants said, "My mother's perspective was a woman who understood her place, took care of her man, take care of the children, as she would say, bear your cross and be happy with what you have. And if you can do that and swallow it and survive, you are strong. I think that my mother, she was very strong, but we have very different definition of what constitutes a strong Black woman or the limits that we could achieve. Another participant said, she is the one that everybody goes to, the one that everybody counts on, the one that's always there to help, always executing, always achieving. To everyone else, it's with ease. For her, it's not always that way, but she has developed the ability to get it all done completely, effectively, and seemingly with ease. Therefore, no one questions the difficulties of the task, and because it seems so easy for her. And so the most common terms that I heard in my study were, when you are describing a strong Black woman, were resilience, endurance, determined, nurturer, powerful, persevere, hardworking, survivor, never quits, proud, supportive, focused, diligent, headstrong, and goal-oriented. So she's everything. So what does it mean to be a strong Black woman? What does that really mean? So what it means to be a strong Black woman: one who has tough skin, not quick to say no, but has a determination to succeed, that willingness to pay the price. She is the woman who has a sense of self and knows herself through trials and tribulations, not letting the world shape who she is, but in the fight to shape her own destiny. The definition that researchers have accepted for a strong Black woman actually is: being a strong Black woman is the continuous effort of Black women to be everything to everyone, juggling family life, social life, and commitments outside of the home. That was a definition accepted in 1979, when the initial research around this theory of the strong Black woman began. In 2010, there was a major development by a new researcher, and that was the development of the superwoman complex. So the superwoman complex is a defense mechanism used by Black women to cope with past trauma and disappointment they have experienced, proving to themselves that they are self-sufficient. So when we think about that, and we think about also where does this all stem from, right? If you had to guess, where does the strong Black woman stem from? This notion of a strong Black woman.
From the days of slavery.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the origins of the strong Black woman stem from the enslavement of the Black woman. It was really a way for Black women to be perceived as being strong and capable of handling harsh treatment to justify their enslavement, creating a stereotype that Black women were strong and could withstand all things, dehumanized them, and really was a way to justify their unjust treatment and exploit Black women. I had one participant who said, being Black means we've had to overcome a struggle. As a race, particularly in the United States, where being a descendant of slaves here means that your ancestors had to endure a lot for us to be here. Being a strong Black woman means that if my ancestors were able to endure that, then there's no stopping me. There's nothing I can't endure. That strength is different. That strength is mental. That strength is psychological and emotional. And so when we think about this, Patricia Hill Collins, one of the key theorists for Black feminist thought, really describes 4 prominent stereotypes and images that the dominant society has used to kind of shape and mold the view of Black women. The first would be the sapphire. This is the woman who is viewed as aggressive or angry or hostile. She's often called the angry Black woman. The second would be the welfare queen. She's viewed as lazy, having multiple children and taking advantage of services. The next is the Jezebel. The Jezebel is seen as sexually promiscuous, also seen as often taking advantage of men. And finally, the Mammy. The Mammy is viewed as a nurturer. She was portrayed throughout slavery as a dark-skinned, obese woman responsible for domestic care. She was very nurturing, self-sacrificing, and Mammy was expected to work long hours without complaint and always had to appear to be happy despite her circumstances. So Mammy in particular, my study focuses a lot around Mammy and also the superwoman. So when we think about a superwoman, what is superwoman? How would you describe a superwoman?
She does it all.
She does it all. That's correct. She does it all. The superwoman is viewed as having unlimited strength and can withstand adversity and denies weakness and vulnerability, oftentimes leading to burnout and compromised physical and mental health. So that's really the challenge with this whole notion of this strong Black woman or the superwoman complex. I'm going to use the term SBW as an abbreviation for strong Black woman. So if you see it throughout the slides, that is what it represents. And so is it realistic for any one woman to do it all, not be vulnerable, be able to withstand everything? No, I see a lot of you shaking your heads. And so this is actually what you see, right? And I think that this image is really, really, really powerful because it's a mask. It shows you an image of this person with a smile, but behind that mask, what do you see? She's actually hurting. She's sad, right? So many Black women find it hard to admit feelings of being overwhelmed, overworked, overloaded, and depressed. And instead of asking for help, they may try to put on an image of strength. At the time, they would do this, picking up this image of the superwoman, because instead of being this image, any one of these four, they viewed that it was better, they were better off being a superwoman. I know I certainly would be, I would prefer for somebody to view me as a superwoman than as a welfare queen or as a Jezebel. And so Black women and the Black community really have embraced this notion of superwoman, even though ultimately it does cause a lot of damage to us. One of my participants shared, of all of these things are happening, but we still have to be who we are and put on the mask. And the mask isn't always comfortable. We don't even want to wear it. But, you know, the cape still flows. And that may not, and you may not want to put on the superwoman cape, but it's just on you and you can't get it off. So my son's in the hospital and I'm here with a smile on my face. And those are some of the things that you have to do, that you have to manage. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. You still have an obligation. And that's the part that breaks us down. So this participant actually is a school educator, and her son attempted suicide the day prior to the graduation at her school. And although her son is in the hospital, she's at graduation and she's smiling and she's shaking hands because she feels this sense of obligation that she has to be there because everyone expects her to be this superwoman. She's perfect. She can do it all. So what is all of this saying? What has happened from 2010 to 2022? In 2010, there was a major development around the Strong Black Woman schema. There was a conceptual framework developed, and I'm going to share that with you and really go through some of the evolution of the last 12 years. So what were the characteristics of a strong Black woman? In 2010, those were an obligation to manifest strength. Regardless of what was going, you had to be strong. Determination to succeed despite limited resources. Again, many of these women come from very humble beginnings, and they have a drive to really move the needle forward. An obligation to help others. Many of the women shared about helping elderly parents, taking care of kids, taking care of nieces and nephews oftentimes. Obligation to suppress their emotions. We just spoke about that. You know, despite how tired they may be, they would just smile and keep on going. Regardless of what's going on, they had to keep going, and they couldn't necessarily show that they were hurt. And a resistance to being vulnerable or dependent. Okay, I want to just go back 1 second to the obligation to suppress emotions. And that really does stem from that image of Mammy. And when I said Mammy always has this big smile on her face, right? Do we know why she has that smile on her face? Even though she was working long hours, you know, no matter what the task was, she had to do it. And she had to smile while doing it. Because if she did not smile, the slave owners would sell her children. And so that was her way of keeping her family together, was smiling despite what's going on. She just had to be happy. She couldn't show her frustration. She couldn't show her disappointment. And these are behaviors that have been passed down to us.
Because if she didn't show them, she would probably be sent to the fields. She would have been sent out of the house and out to the fields.
Right.
Right. What are you looking? Why are you not smiling? You're ungrateful. Go. We could get somebody else.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it viewed. And again, the consequences that came with that sometimes were even worse than going to the fields. Could you imagine losing your kids being sold? And so what's the alternative? I'm going to smile and I'm going to grin and I'm going to bear it and I'm going to endure it because that's what's expected of me.
Right.
So 2022, what's going on? How does this all look now, right? What are some of the characteristics of that same strong Black woman? Guess what? They still feel an obligation to manifest strength. There's still a determination to succeed despite limited resource. There is still an obligation to help others. One thing that has changed, and I'm so happy to report this finding, is that in 2022, the strong Black woman has evolved. They're no longer suppressing their emotions and they're no longer being resistant to being vulnerable. They're asking for help. They're saying, I can't do all of this by myself. I want the help. That is a major breakthrough for the Black community and for Black women. And it's really important how we respond to this. So I'll share another quote from one participant who said, certain meetings I wasn't invited to, but my peers were. My seat at the table obviously was not there. And I mean, I did everything I was supposed to, but I went above and beyond, way above and beyond. You just don't know. It makes you feel devalued. You know, you can contribute, you just don't have the opportunity. Just never really asked to have a seat at the table. The people that they bring to the table are not as connected, not as qualified, but for whatever reason, I am not valued at the table. So imagine being a Black woman who's college educated, working for an organization, and never feeling heard, never feeling valued, never really feeling like you belong there. And so again, how easy is it to be vulnerable in that situation? How easy is it going to be for that woman to say, my feelings are hurt? Probably not so easy. So what are the contributing factors of this strong Black woman? A historical legacy of racial or gender stereotyping or oppression, lessons learned from foremothers, a history of disappointment, mistreatment, or abuse, and spiritual values. So in my study, I found all of these things to remain the same. A lot of this stems from learned behaviors. I'll share a quote here in regards to trauma. It was crazy what they would do to us. And this is a bit of a graphic statement and really broke my heart hearing it. They would tie us to the bed like Jesus on the cross and whip us with horse whips. She would just sit there and watch him. When my aunt would call for Child Protective Services, they would literally just pack us up in the middle of the night and move. My mom died at a very young age of 40 from a blood clot, which I believe came from one of the beatings. Can you imagine this level of trauma? How do you not carry that with you? And yet, despite that level of trauma, the women talk about their faith. I've learned to be proud of who I am and speak about my accomplishments because they were significant accomplishments. But they were his accomplishments, not mine. I feel obligated to let people know how good God has been to me. I hope that what I do moving forward, that it's pleasing to him, that it magnifies his name, and that it makes me worthy of all he's done for me in just a small way. So if you can imagine women who have historically been marginalized, have learned lessons and how to respond to different situations based on what they've seen their mothers and their grandmothers and their aunts do. They have been consistently disappointed in a variety of different ways, yet they remain faithful. So what are perceived benefits of the strong Black woman? Because some people say this is a great thing. Every woman should be a strong Black woman, right? So the benefits, there are some. And so it's preservation of self. So if you're being whipped, or if you are in an abusive relationship, if you're being marginalized, the way that you go through sometimes is to put on that mask and push forward. And so in some ways, women view it as a way to survive, a way to preserve the Black family. Again, remember in slavery, they would sell your child if you were upset. So you couldn't show that. In 2022, they're not selling your children, but if you show that you're frustrated and you voice an opinion at work, you might lose that job that's providing for your kids. So you're still being stifled. And the reason that you allow it to happen is because you're trying to preserve your family. But it also shows that these women are resilient. And despite whatever obstacles they face, they are still trying to succeed. They are on this fight to succeed. They're trying to change the narrative. They don't want to be viewed as a welfare queen. They don't want to be viewed as a Jezebel or as an angry Black woman. They want to be viewed as a peer when they walk into the room. They don't even want to be viewed as Black or as a woman. I am a human. I am a leader stepping into the room like everyone else. I'm qualified to be in the room. And that's what I want to be judged on, my qualifications, not on the fact that I'm a brown woman or that I am a woman at all. It's just see beyond my race and see beyond my gender. And if nothing else, these women know how to problem solve. A challenge comes, and guess what? They have no choice but to come up with a solution. And so they push forward. Here's a quote. There's a glass ceiling. There are blockages to keep us from really obtaining and achieving what we're capable of doing. We are capable of doing just as much as anybody else in this world, but because of the prejudice and the bias and the discrimination and the eyes of society, I don't think they view us in the way that they should. So some of the liabilities, and this obviously is really important for us to discuss. What happens to these women? Why is this such a dangerous view to have? I'm a strong Black woman. In some ways, yeah, that's great. You're fearless. You're going to persevere. You're going to endure. But that also comes with some challenges. And those challenges include strained personal and social relationships. My study in particular focused on this particular aspect. It focused on women who have a strong identification with the strong Black woman schema and the effects on their marriages. And do these women have a higher divorce rate? And my study kind of showed, yeah, they do. Because there's this notion that they have to protect themselves, right? Because they've been disappointed by people for so long. And they can't necessarily ask for support because, again, when they have in the past, they haven't felt the support that they needed. And so that puts a strain on relationships if you feel like you can't necessarily trust people who are supposed to be close to you. Of course, negative effects on mental and physical health. Black women have the highest rate of heart attacks. I mean, when we look at obesity, again, Black women struggle with that because what they're not doing, what the emotions that they are suppressing, those suppressions still have to be fed. So we're finding that women with a strong identification with the strong Black schema have a higher rate of depression, of anxiety, of alcoholism, of shopping addiction. Because instead of coping, using proper coping mechanisms, they're eating themselves to death. They're drinking themselves to death. They're shopping themselves into a hole. And ultimately, all of these behaviors are really not sustainable. In 2022, again, I'm happy to report, you know, if we go back to that very first slide where we talk about women not speaking about their feelings and women not being vulnerable, women are saying, we want to talk about our feelings. We want to be able to be vulnerable. And if we're able to really create a culture that embraces that, instead of seeing, if you go to therapy, that means you're weak. Just go pray. A lot of the Black community does not believe in mental health. They'll tell you, go to your pastor and have your pastor pray for you. Then you'll be okay. And while there is nothing wrong with having a connection with your spiritual faith, some things require someone with a different specialty. And so again, I'm going to bring us to how can we support these women? So I'm going to just share two quotes. Again, my study focused on marriages. And so this participant said, I wasn't really focused on marriage because I was just like, well, of course, that's going to be okay. I think if I had invested as much in my marriage as I did in my career, I still would have been aspirational. I still would have taken the job. I just probably would have been a little bit more focused on how to make it work, a little bit more intentional on our marriage and our time together. Another quote, and this one is specifically in regards to therapy. I think every successful person with a high level of authority should have some sort of psychologist or coach in their lives because you need thought partners. Oftentimes, they have to be far removed from your day-to-day. You need strategic thought partners to help you holistically understand your day-to-day and the decisions you make. Because I sit in a position and my decisions impact the lives of a lot of people. And I don't take that position lightly. I don't make decisions on a whim because, like I said, it impacts a lot of people. And so again, when we go into these leadership roles, regardless of race, regardless of gender, you do have a responsibility to make sure that the decisions that you make that are impacting the lives of the people that you work with are solid decisions that are not just made on a whim, that are not emotionally based decisions. These are decisions that you've really had an opportunity to process and to process your own bias as you make these decisions. So how can we help? How can we move the needle even further forward? So for Black women, here's a quote. My mother does not know. The greater circle of people in my life do not know. Almost no one knew that I had cancer in 2020. I taught all my classes on the day of surgery. I had surgery in the morning. I taught that night. I went through the whole thing. Never took a night off, never took a day off. And now I realize, now in 2022, I should have handled that completely different because I haven't even processed it. I don't think I had cancer. I treated it like I've treated everything else in life. It was something I needed to do. You got to get this done. We got to do this. We got to do that. And that, it's perfect. It's COVID. So no one needs to know. And I can quietly do it on my own. No one should have to do that on their own. So this woman had cancer and did not have support from anyone, not even those closest to her. And why did she do that? She really shares that. It's because she felt like that's what the expectation was, that she had to be strong. She had to keep going. She had to teach all her classes. No one could know. She couldn't miss a day of work because people expected her to be there. So she put on that mask. She put on that superwoman cape and kept going. Black women, don't assume the person you're gonna meet will mentor you. They won't. Usually, they don't want you to be there because you're occupying that space. So few of us get to occupy the same space at the same time. You coming in means I might be going out and I'm not gonna treat you so well. So manage your expectations. Don't expect that the person who's going to mentor you is going to be someone who looks like you. Most of the people who have mentored me have been Jewish men. So I read those two quotes because for us to move the needle forward as Black women, you need to be honest. You need to be vulnerable. You need to stay connected to your faith. You need to embrace counseling and therapy and mentors and networking with people outside of your race. You have to have a diverse network. You need to know your worth. And there are gonna be plenty of times when people try to minimize you or make you validate your worth. But despite that, you need to know your worth. You need to reach up and ask for help, and you need to reach down and give help. So that last quote that I read, which said, don't assume that that woman is gonna mentor you because she's a Black woman. Sad to know that when I come into a room or I enter a new position, that makes another Black woman feel less secure. And the reason for that is because there's this notion that there's only enough space for one or two of us. But what if we change that? What if we change that view and made it that there's space for everybody? We can all win. And so how do we establish that? How to support Black women, how to become an ally. How does everyone on this Zoom call right now, how do you help? You help by doing this. Here's a quote. A few years ago, someone came to me and said, I need to figure out a different title to justify what I was being paid. The funny thing about it that was interesting at the time of the conversation, and still today, I am one of only 3 people in the company with an advanced degree of any kind. It's those microaggressive conversations that is part of every day as a strong Black woman needing to ascend. Someone always needs to substantiate or validate your presence for you simply to exist. Our credentialing needing to be checked and rechecked and overchecked, where other people get to walk into the space and it is assumed that they have the credentials. Ours have to be periodically vetted. Here's another one. If we really want to create spaces for people to grow, allow us to make mistakes, allow us to bring our own experiences to the table, and allow us to be legitimate. And if we are not, remind us of how to be legitimate. Show us how to be legitimate in your eyes, and be tolerant of one another. Be tolerant of me. And so to support the effort, how do you be an ally? DEIB, right? It's a hot topic term: diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Diversity is easiest one to check off the box. You got a person of color, you got a female, you have diversity, but that's not enough. It's not enough. What is it? Equitable? Does everyone have the same resources that they need to succeed? Is it inclusive? Do people feel a sense of belonging, or do they feel like an outsider? You have to be able to be flexible. The statistics show that Black women have the lowest marriage rate, yet the highest divorce rate. I'll repeat that again. The lowest rate of women to get married, yet they have the highest percentage of being divorced. So that means the majority of Black women in this country are single mothers. And when you're a single mother and you're doing it on your own, it's not so easy. Because if that kid gets sick, guess what? Guess who has to stay home and take care of them? Mom, because she's superwoman, right? It's all on her, but she still has to go to work. She still has to provide. And so if you're in a position of leadership, provide some level of flexibility, some level of understanding that people come from different places and have different needs. And if somebody's able to do their job remotely from home 1 or 2 days a week, and that's gonna help them to be more productive, to be a better parent, to have a stable sense of mental health, my God, please be flexible. Mentorship. Again, we need to feel like we belong, and we need doors to be open for us. And so take what each one teach one, right? That's the saying, each one teach one. And it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your gender. You just need to care about another person enough to say, I'm going to bring you into this room with me. I want to teach you something. And recognize microaggressions, because we all have them, right? We all have our own individual bias that we carry with us. So be very intentional about the things that you say. Be intentional about listening to people. Be intentional about correcting people. When you sit in that meeting, and many of my participants make this statement, I may say something at the meeting, make a suggestion, and no one recognizes it or appreciates it. 5 minutes later, a white male will say the same thing, and then it's a great idea. When that happens, call them out. Oh, Cynthia just said the same thing. That's interesting. That's how you support. That's how you show up. So in closing, I want to share one final quote with you. Do you call white women strong? There are single white women out there. Do you ever hear that label, strong white woman? I don't think I've ever seen hashtag strong white woman. I hate the label, Because once you're labeled strong Black woman, people think that they don't have to give you anything. Then you get labeled angry Black woman. Do you know why we're angry? It's because we're carrying a very heavy load that people only want to add things onto, because they've already determined that we don't feel pain. We don't need grace. We don't need your help. And it's a lie. What you're seeing is really hardworking women who are sometimes barely holding it together, who cry at night when their children go to sleep because you can't figure out how you're going to keep trying to figuring it out alone. But yet tomorrow, you will wake up, you will fix your face, and you will figure it out. Thank you. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments that you have.
Edith, firstly, thank you for the research you've done, and may I wish you every success in defending your thesis. At the end of your, I took copious notes because I'm interested in the subject, being somebody who's South African born, and not to make this about myself, but your thesis statement wasn't clear at the beginning. So at the end, you speak about, well, so if you're in charge, if you're in leadership, if you're running a corporation, sensitivity, flexibility, and those kinds of things. Is that the message? Forget about the notes you have. Is that the message from the heart you would like us to leave here with today?
Absolutely.
Okay, so may I suggest you start with that message? Because I was stuck in the research and stuck in the detail of who said what, and I couldn't tell what your heart was saying. So I offer that to you as just a suggestion as a fellow educator coach and somebody who is very passionate about this subject.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Definitely.
Edith, I do apologize. I had one of my clients had a little crisis. So in the middle of your talk, I had to leave the meeting, but I heard the beginning and the end. And I heard the part about the elephant with the rope around their foot and how that leads to the belief that they cannot break that rope. And as a woman of academia and faith, you and I both know that belief is really one of the hardest things a human being has to do, to believe.
Absolutely.
And it takes a lot of the strength and courage. So yes, when I have clients who don't believe, that's the first thing I have to do is build up their strength and courage. And also I've been working in various anti-stigma campaigns for well over 40 years. And in my belief, the most common thing that leads to any sort of stigma and eventually prejudice and bias are labels. They
Absolutely.
are, to me, no label, white, black, religious, political, no label can do anything but damage. So I applaud you, and I again wish you very good luck defending your dissertation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I agree with you totally in regards to labels and stigmas. Stigmas really are designed to, ostracize a specific group of people. And so we definitely need to move away from these stigmas and these labels.
Correct. I agree. Thank you.
Diane?
Hold on, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was just wonderful. I have a question and then two comments. My first question is, how many people participated in your research?
I had 15 participants. It was a qualitative study.
Yes, thank you.
I had 15 participants.
It was very excellent. And I just want to also ask, as a follow-up to that then, since it was qualitative, how did you select them?
So for selection for this study, the criteria was women who identified as being Black, working at a college or university in New York or New Jersey, having been either married and divorced or in a long-term relationship and separated, and having at least one child. In addition, the women had to complete a survey, which is the stereotypic roles of a strong Black woman. The survey was created, I believe, in 2004 by Dr. Thomas, and I received approval to modify the survey to specifically focus on the strong Black woman and the mammy roles. And the women, after taking the survey, had to score a 70 or higher. Because again, if we look at academically, a 70 would be average. So anybody who scores 70 or above would have a strong identification with the schema.
Yeah, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you.
I do have two comments. One is, well, actually three. One is, I think some of your research overlaps with women in general.
Yes,
I would say that. So that would be number one. Number two, I wanted to say that they might not call white women strong white women, but the people that are out there that want to succeed, the white women, are called how they are. They're demonized, and how they're demonized is they're called aggressive rather than assertive. So the example that you gave of the woman, the white woman maybe in the meeting, if that were a white woman, to then say something to the white guy who said the same thing as the Black woman, well, she would be in a way considered aggressive or demonizing the Black man. So I just bring that out there. I was called assertive many times, and I loved every minute of it. The next thing I would like to say is the biggest lesson I learned, and it was from a white Jewish male who ran a hospital, was, Diane, you can say no. The world isn't on your shoulder. And that was the best advice I ever received in life. So thank you so much. Your presentation was excellent. I loved every minute of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I absolutely agree with you. My study, while it focuses specifically on Black women, much of the research crosses the races. The one piece that stands out a little bit more for Black women is that Black women have a higher probability of being single mothers. So that adds a second level, an additional layer of stress. However, the challenges in the workforce and being recognized and gaining social capital, that is challenging, whether you are white or Black. Gaining social capital in corporate or in academia can be extremely challenging for women.
Edith, I think the best thing I ever did in my life was I've hired multiple Black women, and then we've gone out socially afterward, to have a dinner or whatever, to relate to one another, and to do, when I was in the position, to do a mentorship role for what people who did for me. And it often didn't come from women. So you hit the nail right on the head there. And for us here, not to let that happen to other women and other Black women. Thanks.
Thank you.
Edith, may I just have one more comment. So in the work that you've done, do you provide any context for how the stereotype came to be? So for example, to just say slavery is to sort of just look at, where slavery took place. But the problem began with colonialism, and Africa, where I'm from, is rife with examples of how it was that the family structure was broken down deliberately and maliciously.
Absolutely.
There are parallels of that in the United States. Do you give your reader, because I would imagine that your thesis is not just for academic purposes and to get a doctorate, it is to educate and inform. Do you go into any of the history, post-Second World War, the New World Order, the new economic system, and even as further back as colonialism in Africa and elsewhere, where people were bought and sold, where there was the hegemony of the West over everybody else? Is there any context that you do desk research about and present to provide a broader context? And we need to do more for Black women, because without the context, I don't think people really feel the urgency.
So while I did do a lot of research, I was actually advised against including all of that context into the study, just because it would make it too lengthy, for one. But in addition, my committee really wanted me to focus in specifically on the topic of the strong Black woman and its current state, and not as much as on how it emerged. However, I do use 5 different theories in my research, one being social learning theory of observation and repetition from what we've observed. And what I do hope to do in the future is do additional publications around the demise of the Black family and where that stems from.
Well, thank you, and I wish you well. I look forward to reading your thesis, and thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. I do appreciate it.
The gentleman just reminded me of a question. Is your thesis going to be published so we can read it?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
So once I defend in August 26th, a couple of weeks from now, it will go to the editor and will be published shortly after.
Very good.
So thank you, everyone. And I do apologize that we've run over time with our meeting. Normally we end at 1. But Edith, if you could stop sharing your screen for a moment.
Oh, my apologies.
So this has been an amazing presentation. I love every bit of it. The little history that you gave me a lot of context within which the Black woman, how the Black woman evolved and where it's coming from, and the fact that even today, as a result of conditions 400, 500 years ago and continuing throughout the decades, including Jim Crow practices after slavery was abolished, that we still have women who, Black women who feel that they need to be strong and not vulnerable. And I'm so glad with the ending where you actually provide a way forward, a solution, finding mentors, being true to yourself, getting mental health help. I, for one of my first experiences with strong Black women, quote unquote, I've seen that the more educated a Black woman is the higher the rate of her divorce. And it's an important study to be able to identify these issues and to find solutions. So thank you so much, Edith. At this time, again, I apologize for the lengthy meeting. If anyone needs to jump off, feel free. At this time, we will have happy dollars.